On today's episode of the Drift Car Build-Off presented by Spec Clutch and Koyorad,
we're gonna put the interior back in this thing, and then we're gonna do what is probably the first drift-specific mod on this bad boy.
if you watched our last episode on our $4,000 cheap M3, we had a roll bar put in. I ended up painting it and it looks fantastic. So on today's episode, we are gonna fit a lot of the interior back in and work on that drift e-brake. So without further ado, it is time for a time lapse of me stuffing all the leather and carpet back into this car. I have hit my first snag already. That did not take very long, and that is fitting the rear seats around the roll bar, the rear bars there. I was thinking this could actually have a lot of play and you just push it in there, but there's a metal rod, and quite a thick one, that runs through the entire way that gives this whole seat its stiffness here. So actually I cut it a little bit out with the grinder, and it still retains a lot of that stiffness. So I think I'm just gonna have to continue to cut this area out here until we have enough space where I can slide it back in there. So the rear top seat cushion is in, and it turned out okay. I could have done better. I should have cut the leather a little bit higher up, because then it wouldn't have bunched up so badly as it has here. But I mean, it's hard to know exactly where to cut this. I measured and it still came off. I was probably 2 inches off in that sense, because I measured from the bottom of the hoop, or the bar, where I should have measured a little bit higher. Anyways, I think it's decent. My OCD is being triggered a little bit here. I would love to sit around, go buy a new one and try this again, but I think all in all, it is good. I've moved on to the lower cushion here, where I've now kind of notched this out for the bar. I just, again, am not sure if I've got my placement 100%, because I can't fit this in there to see where I need to cut exactly. I'm just going off based of some measurements that I've done. So I think I just need to finish up this side, cut these rods out. As you can see, there's these metal rods in here, and they pose a lot of problems. Normally you could just kind of like take the seat, stuff it in there, and the foam would deform enough where you didn't have to do all this chopping and cutting. But because of those rods, I got to do a little bit more cutting, and then we'll show you the final product. Well, it turns out that my math was actually spot on here, and I was able to get the cut right. As you can see, it looks much, much better than up in this area here. So the rear seats are in, and I mean, I could have left them out, but I think it looks like such a more complete car this way. I think it'll be way cooler rocking it with some interior back in here rather than not. So now it is on to our drift handle here, and I've got a special surprise for you guys on this. If I can remove this piece here, the leather actually came off very easily, but I read online that this actual handle, which I do need to remove, requires a lot of force back and forth to get it off. So I feel like this is gonna take me a while. There we go. Oh, almost took my eye out there. Yep, that would have been pretty awesome. We've been doing this for what, DP?
Longer than I'd care to admit.
Yes. So here's what I've got. This is a NERP Tech drift handle, and it's an extension that bolts onto the factory one. Goes on as such. Really cool product. I was thinking about making one myself, but then I saw this online. It was like $52. Made a lot of sense. Should work like a charm. However, it comes with a little drift button that needs to replace the factory one. And on the forums it says you're supposed to take this off by spinning it. I've been spinning this for about like way too long, 10 minutes now. It does not come off. So we just read a post where someone said there is actually no thread on it. It's just like a blank that's been attached onto here. So I'm just gonna chop it off and figure out how to install this, because this whole drift handle is kind of useless without this proper button being able to push it down and like lock it in place. So we're gonna get this to work one way or another, but first things first, I need to take this off. So let the hacksawing begin. Holy crap. It's finally off. There's definitely no thread here. It is just like ribbed for your pleasure. And it held that plastic on there tight. Which begs the question now, because the NerpTech one is definitely threaded. I just don't know if I just send it on there and it'll just screw itself on. It doesn't feel like it, no.
Doesn't seem like it, eh?
So I'm gonna have to figure out what size thread that is and redo this. But this is sold as an E46 kit, so I don't know, maybe the non-M3 ones are different, or maybe like the older 99s are, I don't know, different versus the 2000s. But if you know why I had this problem, post in the comments. Nevertheless, I am going to run a tap on here, figure out what thread needs to go on, and then we can kind of complete this install. All right, I just made an M4 thread onto here. So let's see if my drift button fits. Let you look at that. It is going on. That's a good sign. And what I did is the spring is gone, and now that will allow this to act as a handbrake, and whenever you want to lock it, just pop this out and it should stay, and then you can lock it in place like that. So we now have everything I need here. So what I'm gonna do now is put the center console back in, and then we can mount up the drift handle here and finish this up. And there you have it. Our NerpTech handbrake extension is in, and it looks like it works like a charm. And if I want to lock it out, there you go. So there's one last thing left to do on the whole handbrake mechanism, and that is to adjust the cables. I read online that the E46, and actually a bunch of you commented before, that the drum brakes do not work well in terms of as a handbrake for drifting, but if you make a proper adjustment to it, that definitely helps a lot. So I'm going to adjust this handbrake by raising the rear wheels up and then tightening the adjustment screws on here to a point where the rear wheels just have a little bit of resistance, and then I'm going to back them off just a little bit, and that should set it to kind of the optimal spot for our handbrake to work. All right, I've tightened up the parking brake enough. Oh, it's definitely pretty tight. Let's see when I release it.
Okay.
No, there's still. It's tough to know whether there's drag or not, though, because the limited slip, right, and the heavy wheels.
But so you can hear it dragging, right?
You
don't think that's the drum dragging?
No, that's definitely not. That's just rust. Because it's too loose right now. So I'm going to tighten this up to the point where
it won't move at all?
It's not going to move yet. It's also weird that they have adjustment on 2 cables.
Yeah.
Oh, see?
Oh, there
okay,
you go.
So now there's a lot of resistance.
Yep.
So let's back that off just enough. Let's see. Yeah, all right. I think that's good.
Yeah.
And our drift handle feels much, much better now too. I'm liking this. All right. So that is officially a wrap on our drift e-brake handle. Next thing to do is to finish off this interior. So if you watched a previous episode of us installing this Momo seat, you'll know that we use these Bray Kraus aftermarket seat adapters, and they use the power rail from the E46. However, we didn't have a switch to make this all work, and finally that has shown up. And as you can see, I wired this up per Bray Kraus's instructions. They were actually quite simple. All you have to do is take the power wires off of the main harness, run them to the switch, do a couple of other wires that run to the motor, and we're good to go.
What is that switch out of, Pete?
This?
Yeah.
An E30.
Oh, an E30, right?
Yeah, an E30, I think E28, and maybe E36. I could be wrong. But anyways, this was super easy to get. I bought that off of Amazon. We can provide a link down below for that. And now it's just a matter of me unplugging all of this again and then fitting it in here, putting this seat in, and then we can see if all of the magic works now. Behold the power of a sliding seat.
Ooh, yes.
Yes.
So good.
How good is that? So we have got pretty much everything done. Dave went ahead and installed these Takata ASM harnesses. So this is a 4-point harness, and it is actually street legal because it has an anti-submarine system. So when I get this in here, I lock myself in place and pull these down, I am officially ready to go. And if you have a look back here, the ASM means that in the case of an accident, that portion actually splits open and provides just enough breakaway that gives you enough, I don't even know what's the legal reason for it, right?
It apparently lets your upper body rotate.
Just like rotate a little bit, right?
Yeah, which for whatever reason has some DOT requirements to allow that, sort of mimic the effect of a three-point harness.
Three-point harness, right? So this side will stay nice and tight, and this side will break away a little bit, so you can kind of rotate.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are set. I think we're good to go. The seat is in. I love the seating position. We've got our little drift handle here, as you can see. It's gonna work like a champ. Oh yeah, clutch it in, pull it up, banging gears. This is really, really awesome. So I think that is a wrap on this episode. As always, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to follow along with this build and hit the notifications bell, which means you're gonna get emails every time a new video is published.